How do you go about changing someone's mind, especially someone who is difficult to reason with, someone who tends to get defensive when confronted with information that conflicts with their beliefs or viewpoints? Now, before we go into this, I think it's important to reflect and ask yourself, why do you want to change their mind? Is it because their belief is harmful in some way? Or does it just bug you when people are wrong and you feel compelled to correct them? Or is it for the gratification of your own ego? Do you get a sense of pride or superiority from winning an argument? Or do you genuinely care about the person and feel that it would actually benefit them to know the truth? Now, the fact is, some beliefs can be harmful. Some beliefs cause a person to suffer, or they can make that person a danger to themselves or to others. And other beliefs are harmless. Even some of the most absurd beliefs can be rather harmless. And for me personally, I really don't care what other people believe as long as it's harmless. If someone believes that the moon is made of cheese, what do I care? I'm not going to waste my time trying to convince them otherwise. So this is something to consider. What is your motivation? Does it really matter what they believe? And is it even worth the bother? Because getting someone to change their mind can be very difficult. Most people, once they've accepted something as true, it's very difficult to convince them otherwise. Even when you present facts and evidence, there are many people who will simply reject it. Another thing to keep in mind is that when you challenge a person's beliefs, they tend to take it personal. They tend to feel attacked. And when someone feels attacked, they naturally become defensive. And once a person has put up their defenses, it's very difficult to get them to listen to reason. So instead of trying to convince someone that they're wrong, try instead to understand them. And it's important here to be sincere, to be genuinely curious, to be genuinely interested in understanding why they believe what they believe, and to have both a willingness to listen as well as an openness to learning something. When you approach someone with this kind of openness, it invites them to be open as well. When you're willing to listen to someone with a sincere desire to understand, it becomes much more likely that they will do the same for you in return. What I'm alluding to here is what is often referred to as the Socratic method, named after the philosopher Socrates, who is so well known for this kind of approach. Rather than imposing his viewpoints onto others, he would often engage them in an exploration of their own viewpoints, while at the same time challenging those views with tactful questions. Now, the aim of this approach is not to win the argument. The aim is to guide the other person to think more deeply, more critically, and more logically about whatever it is that they believe. And perhaps in doing so, they might come to their own realization that their viewpoint doesn't quite hold up. So if someone makes a claim that you know is false, instead of outright telling them that they're wrong, you might ask, why do you believe that? Or how do you know that that's true? And you would then allow them space to explain. And as they do, you probe more deeply with follow-up questions that gently challenge their assumptions by asking them, for instance, what evidence they have to support their claim. Or you could even provide counter evidence by asking them, do you know about this or that? And what do you think about it? Or you can ask questions that reveal logical inconsistencies in their reasoning, all the while remaining calm, considerate, and respectful, and making sure to listen. When people feel heard, they lower their defenses. When they don't feel attacked, they're far more open to rethinking their position. That's the power of asking instead of arguing. You're not trying to win a debate, you're just planting a seed. And even if they don't change their mind right then and there, that seed might grow later on when they're alone, when they have more time to quietly reflect. So you can try this approach next time you're talking to someone who seems resistant to reason, who gets defensive when you challenge their beliefs. And I'm not saying that it works every time, but it works far better than arguing. And I'll leave you with this advice. If you want others to listen, if you want them to be open to new ideas or opposing viewpoints, if you want them to consider that they might be wrong and to have the willingness to change their mind, you should be willing to do the same. Because sometimes you might be the one who's mistaken. Sometimes you might be the one who needs to rethink their position. And we should always consider that the other person might know something that we don't. And it would do us well to have enough humility to consider that we might not have all the information and to be open to learning something new. What I'm really getting at here is that we need discussion more than debate. Because debate is usually two people talking at each other, each trying to change the other's mind without any intention of changing their own. And when neither is willing to reconsider their own position, the whole exchange is pointless. It doesn't go anywhere. It's a waste of time. A discussion, on the other hand, is when two people actually listen to one another with the intent to understand. And in that willingness to understand, there's much more likelihood that someone might change their mind. But oftentimes, you have to be the one to create that environment. You have to set the tone by being kind and respectful, by asking thoughtful questions and listening without interrupting, and by having a sincere desire to understand the other person's point of view. Because when you extend that courtesy to others, they're much more likely to return the same courtesy to you. And once that mutual respect has been established, real conversation becomes possible. The kind of conversation where both people walk away a little bit wiser than before. If you find value in this content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.